Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are looking at the Transgressor. So, although suited more for space combat since the stubby wings do not provide the maneuverability really needed for atmospheric combat, the Transgressor is still highly considered among House Leo era lances. Compact with heavy armor, the Transgressor can stay in a fight long after other units have to withdraw due to damage. The energy weapon reliance does make it hard to control heat buildup, and pilots typically firing the laser batteries in salvos to give the heat sinks time to uh, cooler craft. I'm sorry. All right, weapons and equipment. The Transgressor is an energy weapon only design in its original variation. One Battletech radionic large laser and one uh, Kajuka Type 2 Bright Blossom medium laser are mounted in the nose. With this pattern copied on each wing, the final medium laser is rear mounted, which I did not take account for that in my kind of stats here, which I will have to change. I don't know why I just wasn't looking at where all the weapons were really located. So that's really on me. We'll have that changed before we look at the stats. Now, notably, we don't have a huge change in the weapon layout. But let's get into this here. We have the 13A appearing shortly after the engagement of Sun Tu Liao and Isis Merrick. This variant exchanges the single heat sinks to double heat sinks and the large lasers for large lasers. Now we have the 14 removing the three large lasers and 1 ton of armor. The TR-14 replaces them with an AC-20 and 10 rounds of ammunition. While stopping heat buildup problems, this leaves the Transgressor lightly armed after the limited autocannon ammo has been expended. Not a good place to be sitting at in a 75-ton machine here. All right, then we have the 15 fielded in 3071. This model wields medium lasers and large lasers. Um, and the wing mounted heavy PPCs, it uses an extra light engine to make space for these features. So it looks like we're having one large, um, a couple mediums, and maybe two heavy PPCs, something along that lines. I don't have the specifics for that in front of me, which is the reason why I go off of like the wiki here, because I trying to come up with all the different variations that have been done throughout the years. I think I'm more likely to skip over something if I'm trying to go through all my own books. And I know I don't have some of the newer stuff, so which is why we always start here. And finally, we have the TR-16, a refit kit for the TR-14. This variant uses twin nose-mounted gauze rifles with 3 tons of ammo. Again, it's not going to be something for a great long-term conflict, but in a short-term conflict, it would probably do very well. All right, so getting into the gallery that we have here. Now, this is from the original 3025, here done by David Dietrich. And then we have a revised version of the 3025, and this is by Mike and Jim Nielsen, after the original by David Dietrich. Has a nice look to it. I'm not going to say it doesn't. And then last but not least, we have a uh, Transgressor leaving a Leopard CV Curiant variant. Um, and this is by Rick Harris. Okay, so that kind of gets us from where we are here. And let's get on over to our D6 stats. All right, so the Transgressor not having a ton of extra stats here. Um, Starting it off with Walker scale. So we're keeping everything in scale and in line with each other. This is 75 tons, has a crew of 1, no passengers. I'm still keeping that 45 kilograms of cargo space Of course, we're going to have a full coverage. Now, the cost in on this one comes in at 4,024,281 C bills. We have a maneuverability. Now, remember, we start off with a 3D, and then the weight drops it down to only a +2. And because it's got a maximum space speed, the overthrust speed is a 9, that takes us up to a 1D +2 maneuverability. Um, we have a space speed of the 9, which I said before, which does keep us at that atmospheric speed of 1,150 kilometers an hour. Um, Being at 75 tons, this gives us a body strength of a 5D +2, and it has 234 armor points on board the ship. Now, our weapon systems, although they are plentiful, it's just not a very long list because we have the 4 medium lasers. Actually, and I'm going to have to copy this and do a little change because, again, I forgot to do something. Um, we got to change this a little bit, a little copy paste magic. All right, so we're only going to have 3 medium lasers in the front. Oops. Which means our damage then goes down to a 70. Let's see. All right. I'm kind of sitting here in the background, just kind of trying to make sure I'm getting this correct when I'm looking at the damages for the laser systems here. Um, Mainly because as I raise them and lower them, because we have multiples, I'm trying to make sure that when I get it down, I'm having this correct. Okay. That's what the little pause is. My little mind, the squeaky wheel in there is just kind of fumbling around here. All right, so we have 3 medium lasers. Combined, they're doing 7D because these are going to be fire link, just throwing it out there in that regard. Um, Having a fire control of 2D. Now we have 3 large lasers, and it's going to be a combined damage of 8D, being fire linked. And actually, I don't think I have that correct. I think this is supposed to be at Walker's scale, not Starfighter. All right. When I was first doing this, I was putting it at Starfighter scale, but then I was kind of goofing myself up because it shouldn't be. All right, so um, and then we have one last of all, and I don't have the arc in here correctly because this is rear. No, not turret. All right, and this is supposed to be front for the fire arc. See, this is where I fumble at times. All right, there we go. Okay, so hopefully we have this looking correct now, and hopefully I have the damages correct. Um, 5, 6, 7. No, okay. Our medium laser should be starting off at 5D, so that's where I'm getting things wrong. Like I said, my little hamster wheel is not working the greatest here. So again, we have 3 medium lasers forward firing at 70 damage. We have 3 large lasers forward firing, and then we have 1 medium laser which is rear facing, and that's going to be a 5D damage because it's all by itself with a fire control of 2D. Gives us a nice rounding for these weapons, and in each, like it was seen in the write-up, we have a large and a medium in the nose, a large and a medium in each wing, and then a final medium rear facing, which ends out the whole rounding of the weapons platform here. Uh, Making people kind of wonder if they really want to sneak behind this and attack from that direction. It's not a huge amount of damage, but it is something to try and keep people from wanting to really get behind you. And it does work. It's another nice vessel. Now, because typically when we were playing, we didn't do a lot of the aerospace. And I do remember having one huge campaign and we never even finished it because it was, we spent so long setting everything up. And we actually went from the drop ships coming in and going through a whole dropship combat, and I remember going through that, and I couldn't tell you what fighters or even dropship setups we had because we had multiples. So it just took a long time, and then we had finally gotten down to the ground, and unfortunately, we had to clean everything up because my parents had come home, and we had to get everything off the floor because it was just that massive of a battlefield that we had set up. Um, Otherwise, in most of the gaming sessions that we did, we usually just settled on really what it came down to is just one-on-one kind of Slayers type matches. Occasionally, we would get to a little bit bigger groups with one of my other friends, and we would just run just straight lances of four in a small mercenary company or unit or whatever. And we didn't get much bigger than that, mainly because it's just the two of us and we're just trying to have some fun and spend some time, but not get too overly into it. Because our time was kind of short and we knew it was always kind of limited. And it's wonderful because I get to hear from you guys that you have come up with wonderful storylines for your units and creating all this stuff out in the periphery and having uh, good mercenary units and being able to spend the time. Unfortunately, my time has never been able to spend, because I'm married and the kids were growing up and all that stuff, which they're adults now, but trying to get everyone together while we're doing all this, and then family keeps pulling me away. I just never had the time. Now that the kids are older, maybe I can get into that, but now I spend more time doing this than actually gaming. We're going to get into it at some point, but it's fun getting all this into like the D6. So those that want to run this as a D6 can do it, or just learn a little bit about the craft itself. So with that being said, thank you so very much for joining me today. It's wonderful having you here. I enjoy hearing from you guys in the comments. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you in the next video.